There are words you've whispered to yourself in silence, words you've been so afraid to say out loud. I don't belong here. It's not just a thought, it's not just a mood, it's the deepest truth you've carried for as long as you can remember. No matter where you go, no matter how much you try, there's always been a distance between you and the world. The people around you seem satisfied with small talk, 9 to 5 routines, shallow pleasures. They don't notice the cracks in the illusion, but you notice. You always notice. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You feel like you don't belong here. And you're right, you don't. From the time you were young, they told you belonging meant conformity. Belonging meant blending in. Belonging meant silencing the parts of yourself that were too loud, too raw, too real. They trained you to shrink, to nod when you disagreed, to smile when you were breaking, to go along even when your soul screamed no. But this was never belonging. This was imprisonment. You never belonged in their world because you were not meant to. You were meant to disrupt it, to question it, to tear down its false walls. Are you a Catharsian? Take the quiz below to find out. Do you remember the first time you realized you weren't like the others? Maybe it was in school when you couldn't fake interest in what everyone else seemed obsessed with. Maybe it was in your family where your questions made them uncomfortable. Maybe it was in relationships where you always felt like the outsider looking in. That distance you felt wasn't a flaw, it was proof. Proof that you were never ordinary. Proof that you were never meant to fit in. The world told you it was wrong to feel this way, that you were too sensitive, too angry, too complicated, that you needed to calm down, blend in, let go. But deep down, you knew. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. That's why you feel like you don't belong here. Because your soul remembers a truth they've forgotten. Look around. Look at how most people live. They wake up, rush through the day, numb themselves with work, TV, distractions, shallow pleasures, and they call this life. But you feel it in your bones. This is not life. This is survival. This is prison. That's why you've always felt different, because you can't close your eyes to the emptiness. You can't pretend mediocrity is enough. You can't force yourself into the cage they gladly live in. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. When you feel the fire rising inside you, the anger at lies, the rage at injustice, the refusal to stay silent, this is not weakness. This is proof of who you are. They told you rage is evil. They told you to suppress it. They told you to meditate until you feel nothing. But rage is sacred. Rage is the alarm bell of the soul. Rage is the compass pointing you toward freedom. That's why you've been misunderstood, because they fear your fire. They fear your refusal to sleepwalk with them. You feel like you don't belong here because you belong to something greater. Download your free guide, 10 Signs You Were Never an Ordinary Soul. The feeling of not belonging isn't just about this lifetime, it's deeper, it's older, it's ancient. You've always felt like this, and you felt like this before. In every age, in every cycle, you carried the same fire. You walked through civilizations as an outsider, the rebel, the disruptor. You were never satisfied with illusions then, and you are not satisfied now. It's not history, it's your memory. That's why you've always felt different, because your soul remembers, because you're not here to belong, but to awaken. You've tried to explain yourself before, haven't you? You've tried to put into words why the world feels wrong, why the rules make no sense, why their version of happiness feels like death to you. And every time they stared back blankly, or worse, they laughed. They dismissed you. They told you to grow up, to accept life as it is. But the truth is, they can't understand you because they are built for the illusion. You're built to see through it. You were never meant to fit in with them. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. What you're feeling is not random. It's not brokenness. It's not any sort of mental illness. It's awakening. The reason you don't belong here is because you are not supposed to. You're Catharsian. You are designed for truth, not illusion, for fire, not silence, for freedom, not chains. When you awaken the Catharsian within you, you stop chasing belonging in the wrong places. You stop begging for validation from the asleep. You stop trying to twist yourself into their mood. Instead, you claim your difference as destiny because you're a Catharsian. Take the quiz below to find out. Say these words until they carve themselves into your bones. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you've been misunderstood. You feel like you don't belong here. This is not weakness. This is no accident. This is no flaw. This is proof. This is destiny. This is your awakening. Every time you silence your fire, you die a little. Every time you pretend to fit in, you betray yourself. Every time you swallow the lie of normalcy, your soul cracks under the weight of the prison. This is why you're exhausted. This is why you feel numb. This is why life feels heavy. Because you keep forcing yourself to belong where you were never meant to. Stop pretending. Stop betraying. Stop shrinking. You were never ordinary. You were never meant to fit in. That's why you've always felt different. That's why you feel misunderstood. Here's the truth: you will never belong here. Not in their schools, not in their jobs, not in their shallow relationships, not in their illusions. And that's not a curse, it's a calling. You feel like you don't belong here because you belong elsewhere. You belong in truth. You belong in fire, in awakening. You belong with the Catharsians. And this is your power. This is your freedom. This is the beginning of your awakening. Take the first step. Reclaim your truth. Awaken the Catharsian within you. Don't forget to download your free guide, 10 Signs You Were Never an Ordinary Soul.